At 2:13 a.m., the phone rang inside a quiet suburban home. By sunrise, the house went entirely dark. An entire family had vanished. When investigators arrived, they found a complete vacuum of evidence. No forced entry, no signs of a struggle, no ransom note on the counter. Instead, the interior was unsettlingly still. Every cushion was straight. Every surface was dusted. The home looked less like a living space and more like a stage that had been carefully reset. The rhythms of a normal morning had simply stopped. No lights flickered on at 6 a.m. No footsteps moved across the second floor. Phone calls from concerned relatives went straight to voicemail. This total lack of chaos began to feel like a choice. In a house where life had been interrupted so abruptly, the sterile perfection of the rooms suggested that someone had worked to ensure no story was left behind. As the investigation began, the victim's husband positioned himself as the primary source of information. He was calm, helpful, and seemingly ready to assist the police in any way possible, but his initial story quickly shifted. This timeline tracks his changing accounts over 48 hours, each version creating a different explanation. Every challenged detail added complexity, forcing police to expand search parameters and chase leads further from the house. He spent those early days managing the investigation's focus. By staying at the center of the conversation, he could steer the police toward his invented theories and away from the reality of what had happened inside the home. The suspect maintained his routine and his public composure, betting that if he could push the false narrative long enough, the investigation would eventually lose its momentum. While the suspect continued to offer new theories, technicians returned to the property for a second look. This time, they weren't searching for signs of a struggle. They were searching for modifications to the house itself. Behind a subtle cabinet panel in the basement, they found a void that hadn't appeared on the original blueprints. Inside that space, they discovered the remains of the missing woman. It was a location that could only be accessed or created by someone with total control over the property. With the discovery of the body, the pristine facade of the home finally broke. Financial records soon revealed mounting debts and hidden relationships, providing the motive that the clean living room had initially masked. Further evidence emerged from an archival report. This map tracks the suspect's vehicle across town days before the disappearance. When the victim's routine is layered on top, the paths intersect perfectly. He wasn't just driving, he was mapping her movements and timing her schedule. The combination of the hidden remains and the mapped surveillance shifted the entire nature of the case. This was no longer a mysterious vanishing. It was a documented system of premeditated murder. Even with the evidence, the legal process stretched on for years. The case eventually went cold, and the suspect began to live as if the threat of prosecution had passed. A new team of investigators eventually went back to the very beginning, pulling a specific audio file from the first week of interviews. On that tape, the suspect made a brief throwaway comment about a location he claimed he hadn't visited. It was a small detail, but it mathematically contradicted the vehicle tracking data from that same afternoon. That single contradiction made the rest of his story impossible to sustain. When the tape was played in court, his meticulous timeline finally collapsed. The enduring horror of the case isn't just the crime itself. It's the realization that a brutal reality can exist quietly behind the routines of an ordinary life, thrusting simply because no one thinks to look past the surface.